welcome. Hi, can I see my talk? Okay. Hi, I'm Alan, and I've been trying out YouTube for about 15 years, and most recently I've been getting into this new thing called short-form video content. Now, I know it has a reputation for being low effort, and I didn't want to be like that. So I wrote this script for a little sketch and shot it all on green screen. My buddy Joey and I created a bunch of Blender assets and just like put it all together into this fun like virtual production of like a topical comedy sketch, you know? And this is just highlights. You can see the whole thing on my channel. But it went, I think it came out pretty fun, and it did surprisingly well on YouTube for a short. But I did notice that, unlike with my usual sort of educational type of stuff that I make, this, which could, I guess, be considered art content, you know, posting art content online, had a slightly different vibe with the comments from what I'm used to. And so, just for fun, I went ahead and read through all 1,600 comments from across the different platforms and did some data analysis to present to you guys in a way that you could hopefully understand. So the first thing to note is that the ratio of positive to negative comments was 6-to-1, which is surprising and kind of awesome. Any YouTube creator should be happy with that, but it's not the whole story, okay? Because this comprised only 29% of overall comments. Most of the rest of them were either random words, jokes, and riffs and stuff like that, or like people telling you, you know, what other existing media your original thing that you made up looks like, which filmmakers love to hear. And then a tiny minority of comments, for me personally, take up the most real estate in my mind. And that is technical critiques, okay? Because that's kind of what I do. So if it's directed at me, I need to pay attention. So yeah, people said things like, you know, the stabilization there was not perfect, and this is actually audio equipment and on the racks, which is fine. But by far the most comments were about this little moment where the captain is clearly using what looks like a pipe wrench, but the sound effect I put on that moment when you watch the video is like a ratchet, like a sound, and people just delighted so much in explaining to me about this choice that I made, which is wonderful to hear. Now I forgot my place. But yeah, so I thought this is good. This is the teaching moment. And I had a Polycam scan of the wrench. So I made this follow-up video where I explained, you know, this is actually a special wrench that can transform into a ratchet. And in fact, it was even the hammer at the beginning of the video. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, what I didn't realize is that by making this, I had accidentally created another piece of art content. So the whole paradigm of comments applied once again. So once again, an even higher ratio of positive to negative comments, which is awesome to see. But again, it was only a small portion of overall comments, most of the rest of which were either randomness or people telling me that this looks like Half-Life or Bioshock or whatever. And then, once again, a slightly increased minority of, once again, technical critiques. But this time, they were actually well-informed and interesting and helpful. Essentially, you know, this consensus was that the specular is a little too high on these CG tools that are supposed to be rusty. And most importantly, there's no sense of weight to it, you know, because if you're just, of course, if you're replacing a little stick with markers for like a big iron tool, it needs to have that sense of weight. Hjalti would cry, you know. And so that's legitimate criticism. It's very helpful. But here's the thing. Even if some of these guys are like VFX supervisors at ILM, what they're really doing is making a comment on the internet. And whenever you do that, you don't have all the context. You don't know the person, you don't know their goals. My goal was, my priority was the original short, right? Which I needed to shoot in a day. and do it safely and quickly and efficiently, do things like hammer the hammer next to the lens and capture good audio. So I did purchase foam replicas of these tools to use in that short, which were rather shiny, had like a shiny finish, and were very, very lightweight, because that is what was needed for the production, okay? So when it came to the little follow-up joke video that I did spur of the moment, I actually wasn't replacing any objects with anything. This was the live-action plates. The objects just happened to be shiny and light. And so I think in that context, my VFX work in matching the motion and the shading is actually on point, okay? So I guess that makes these very well-informed comments actually completely wrong, doesn't it? And so I think we should all learn from the mistake that these people have made tonight. Because had they been signed up on my Patreon, they would have seen me chronicle the entire production process of the short, and they would have known about the foam props even before I shot the video. And then they wouldn't have made the choice to say these things, and then none of them would have ended up looking like a silly, pedantic weirdo in front of a theater full of Blender experts. Thank you.